Hey, what's good, people? Zensphere back again for another Renoise tutorial. This time I want to show you guys a drum generator tool that recently came out, at least in an official release form. It's called Almost Drums by Martblek, and you can download it from the Renoise tools page. I believe it's a 3.3 tool. Might be 3.2, but I think it's 3.3. So you should be able to find it there, and I'll put the link for it in the description as well. So to access this tool, once you've installed it, downloaded it, and installed it, you go to your waveform editor, right click, and pull up Almost Drums. You can also set it up with a hotkey, so you can just call it up whenever you want. Now this tool is pretty cool. It's got a bunch of different modules for generating drum sounds. We got kicks and blips, we got snares, we got hi-hats, cymbals, claps, Karplus-Strong synthesis, bell and gong, as well as this glitcher EX. I think EX stands for experimental. All of these are very cool and useful in their own right. Some modules I think are a little stronger than others, but there's all kinds of good stuff in here. So let's get into it, see what this is about, and maybe you can find out if it's right for you. It is free, so the price is right. So let's start with kicks and blips. Now you notice nothing really comes up once we call up the tool. First we have to adjust a parameter, and then we should get some sound. But let's first just go through our kind of our different sections here. We've got our basic waveform generator, then we've got a filter section, then we have a saturation section and a volume envelope section. Right now I've got this set to out quad, which is one that I think sounds generally pretty good for kicks. But you can see there's a whole bunch of different maths that you can apply to generate your envelope. You can also turn the envelope off and do envelope processing either in your modulation section or some other way that you like once you have the sample generated. For now, we'll just leave it on out quad. We also have the fortune device, which randomizes settings and can morph according to this morph percentage from settings that you already have. Up here, you can see we set the sample rate. We have a number of sample rates to choose from. I'm going to just stick with 44.1, and we have the bit depth as well. So you can generate very high quality samples. You can do 32 bit depth and up to 192K for your sample rate. We'll just leave it as it is for now. So to generate a sound, we just want to move one of these sliders. We'll change our duration here. And you can see our kick wave right now is on pulse. I'm going to change that to cosine. That should sound a little more like a kick. And our bandpass filter is probably not necessarily what we want. I'm going to go to a low pass filter. Now it's starting to look a little more like a kick. And I'm going to dial down our filter resonance and we'll bring the cutoff frequency up. Periods is set pretty high. Let's bring that lower. And let's see what this sounds like. Okay, let's tighten this up a little. And just make sure I'm in the right octave. So generating a C4 should be pretty good. And there, right there, we have a serviceable kick if we bring our periods down. If you want sort of like a laser zap sweep, you can bring periods up and duration up. But I want sort of a lower bassy kick. So we'll bring this, I usually like my kicks a little shorter, bring it down to about 1.6 or so. You can see this scale down here, and this is relative to your BPM. So depending on what BPM you're working at. So let's check out this filter section and see how this impacts the sound. These are highly resonant filters in this tool, so they can impact the sound quite a bit. You notice as I bring the Q up, it's changing our attack characteristics on their transient. So we have quite a bit more high frequency content, and then if we play with our filter cutoff, we can bring in all kinds of different sounds into our transient. But I think I like kind of a cleaner sounding kick. So I'm going to leave it about there. Now this saturation module is really nice. There's a couple different saturation curves that we can use. We've got kind of a wave folding sine curve. You can see how this doubles the waveforms back upon themselves. And our amount will scale it accordingly. So you can get some good kind of weird lasery sounds out of it. Pretty non-standard kick sounds. We've also got this tan H curve, which is a nice sort of rounded clipping distortion. Really nice for hardstyle kicks. You can bring this to a square wave really easily. We also have this user curve, which I'm not sure if this is actually user definable. I haven't figured out a way to do that. It may just be called user, or maybe the user refers to something else. But you can see we have a different kind of distortion curve here. A little harder, grittier, dirtier. And then, of course, we can also overdrive through our volume envelope. You can see we get some good digital clipping here. If you want something that's just really going to hit hard and blow out some speakers. So just playing with these different parameters, you can get a lot of, kind of quick, serviceable kick drums. And you can change the waveform. If you want a higher frequency, you can just use a different octave on your keyboard, because again, this is a sample generator, right? So this isn't live synthesis, it's just generating the sample using maths operations, and then you can do whatever you want with the sample after the fact. So if you wanted more of a blip, and we have a number of different filters to choose from here too. And one thing I should mention about this tool is if you're dragging sliders, it's going to be a lot less responsive than if you're clicking values or inputting values, because it's trying to redraw the waveform for every time it accesses the slider value. I'm not sure what that refresh rate is, but depending on how long the duration of your sound is, it may slow down your rendering considerably. If you have a shorter duration, it'll go a lot faster. You can see. Okay, so that is our kicks and blips generator. You can get a lot of good sounds out of it. Let's check out the Fortune device, try randomizing. See what we get. Now, the randomization doesn't seem to impact the duration. It seems like it maybe impacts everything else, doesn't affect the saturation or the volume envelope. So it's just going to change the filter type, filter frequency, filter cutoff, or rather filter cutoff and filter resonance, as well as the period. So if you want a longer kick, change that, and the randomization is not going to affect it. Now this morph parameter just morphs a percentage depending on the percent that we set here on this percentage slider. So this is really nice for kind of generating sounds on the fly, stuff you wouldn't really think to do. Sometimes you get some good serendipitous results. Okay, so let's check out our snares, and let's just randomly generate a snare here. Doesn't sound much like a snare. Sometimes that happens with the randomized function. But let's just look at what we've got in our snare drum generator. We've got our duration slider once again. Probably a decent duration for a snare. We have different colors of noise that we can choose: white noise, pink noise, and Brownian noise. I'm going to go with white noise. And then we have a volume slider for our noise, as well as a volume slider for our oscillator. Now the oscillator is going to kind of determine the pitch of the body of the snare. I really like how we can choose an arbitrary frequency for our oscillator. So if you say are working in a certain key, or your kick is tuned to a certain note and you want your snare to be resonant with that note, or if you want it to be like, say the fifth of that note, you can figure out or look up the pitch to frequency conversion. There's information available online, charts that will convert pitches, note pitches to frequency, and input the frequency that you want. I usually like my snares around 200 hertz. And one thing, when you input a value manually using the keyboard, it returns the focus to the tool. So if you start pressing keys, the keys don't pass through. You have to click on the waveform field again to have the keyboard be responsive. So let's bring some noise into this. I'm guessing our filter section is kind of the culprit here. We've got a high pass filter, band pass filter, and low pass filter. So see how this low pass cutoff is set really low? That's taking all our noise elements out. And so we're just hearing the body here. So let's bring this up. And now we can hear some of the snare tail. Now the filters in this tool can be very resonant. So you may get some kind of like unexpected results. So you can try like bringing the resonance down, and that should make your filters behave more like you might expect. Okay, I'm gonna bring this frequency down. Let's bring it down to 200. Oh, I'm up at octave 5. That's my problem here. Bring that down to 4. So that's more like a snare sound that I'm looking for. I want to bring this bandpass resonance down. And that actually sounds pretty good to me. That's starting to sound like a snare. And we'll bring our volume envelope up. Just keep it on this out quad. As I said, there's tons of different envelopes here that you can choose, and you can just kind of scroll through them with your mouse wheel and see what shape appeals to you. I'm going to stick with this out quad for now. And we'll add a little saturation here. We'll do this tan H saturation. We'll bring this down, bring this down. And there you have a nice fat, like dubstep style snare. Pretty good for just a little bit of work. So that's our snare generator. Again, you can randomize, see what you get. Maybe it's good, maybe it's weird. But when you understand how this filter section works and how this section works, it's fairly easy to get some pretty good snare sounds out of this unit, at least in my opinion. I actually like this snare unit, and I use it to generate some snares, or at least I have. This is a new tool, so I've only used it a little bit. Let's check into our hi-hats section. Now for our hi-hats, we have two methods of generating hi-hats. We have this old school method, and then we have this metallic method. And they function differently. The old school has a noise generator. Let's bring this to, let's say, white noise. And then we can affect the noise mix. I'm going to bring my duration down. I want a nice short closed hat. Sounds okay. Let's take the saturation off. And we'll bring our volume envelope up. And right out of the gate, that actually sounds pretty good. Our filter section for the hi-hats, I believe, is a bank of high-pass filters. I think these are all high-pass filters. I wish it kind of said that so you knew what you were working with. But hey, all good. As I said, the price is right. We also have a phaser component to this hi-hat generator. And we can choose two frequencies for our phasers as well as the volume for the phasers. And I'm not hearing much, and I'm guessing that's probably due to our filtration. There's definitely some trial and error involved in this tool, especially as you kind of are getting comfortable with it. But again, it generates some very serviceable sounds. Let's check out our metallic section here. And we'll bring our volume envelope down because that is too loud. And I believe these are also high-pass filters. Let's bring our duration up. And you can get some nice open hi-hats from the metallic section. Let me bring this up a little bit. We might want a different envelope. You can also turn the envelopes off. So let's see what happens if we do that. Not too much. It looks like it has some built-in decay. You can get some nice like metallic clangs and stuff. Sounds like some Aphex Twin from back in the day. But that's a pretty nice open hi-hat right there. So again, if you want to render your sample, you just close the window and you've got the sample here. And if you wanted to, you know, build a drum kit, you could go to key zones, select drum kit, select another sample, and you know, bring up your drum generator and kind of build your kit that way. I'm just going to go to a new instrument because I want the key zone to be stretched across the whole instrument. So let's check out cymbals. Cymbals is cool too. So I turned off my envelope here. So you can see this is just kind of a long sustain. We'll bring this up. Some nice cymbal sounds pretty much right out of the gate. Can alter the ratio of phasers to noise, and then we have our filter section again. If we want more high frequency content. That's kind of interesting. And let's bring a volume envelope in here. Let me just go back to our out court. That's probably not the best envelope for a cymbal, but it'll do the job for the moment. Kind of interesting. There's also this metallizer unit, which is basically a delay line. And you can hear we have this very short delay with a kind of a high degree of resonance or feedback, and that brings in this higher tone. And if we drag this out, nice and metallic. It sounds sort of like the old school Akai time stretching. So there's a lot to play with here. You can get a lot of different interesting sounds. You know, I encourage you just to experiment. Again, the price is right. Clap section. I'm not totally impressed with the clap section, or maybe I just haven't really dialed in how I like to use it. But they generally don't sound that realistic to me. If we just randomize stuff, we'll get some odd sort of quasi claps. But this attack time and decay time will, you know, kind of change the pulse envelope shape. We can use this attack shape and decay shape as well to make them more sustained. And we also have this displace time. So you could maybe use this as a starting off point, add some reverb, resample it, and then you might have a kind of a better clap sound, I think. Again, I feel like this module maybe needs a little work, but it also can generate some kind of interesting percussion textures just using the randomize function. Kind of cool. Okay, so Karplus-Strong, we've got a basically a filtered delay line that is using noise as an input. We've got Brownian noise, white noise, and pink noise. Once again, let's try some pink noise. Bring our volume envelope up. Very quiet. Let's see. I wonder why that's so quiet. Probably our filters are to blame. So we can, we have 3 filters here, and we can actually choose what filters we want. I'm just going to turn a couple of these off, so it's a little fewer variables. Let's bring a low pass filter in here. Okay, so now this is more of a typical kind of Karplus-Strong sound. And you can get some nice kind of almost like FM type tones. This wavelength slider impacts the sound quite a bit. The further to the left, the higher the frequency, the shorter the repetitions. And then you get more of like a looping noise the further you drag it to the right. So another fun one to play with. You can get some nice noise lead tones out of this pretty easily. And again, you have these 3 filter sections, so you can add more filtration if you want to, you know, get some resonant bandpass in there. Bump this up, pick a frequency. And of course, we have saturation as well, if we want to overdrive it. Pretty cool. Okay, moving on, we've got our bell and gong section. This, I haven't really dived, I don't know, what's the fucking word? I haven't really dived into this too deeply, but let's just see what we get if we randomize. You can get some interesting metallic tones and swells. Kind of cool. Duration can go quite long on this. Let's turn this off here. Bring this down. Take this off. And let's see, let's try scalar. In any case, it's one to play with. I have gotten some nice tones out of this module, but again, I don't know that I really understand how it's functioning. I don't know, for instance, what this wave slider does, what the scalar is referring to, but there is some FM component where we can choose different carrier waves. And then we can change the attack and decay characteristics of the kind of gong as we like. Pretty cool. So kind of last but not least, we've got this glitcher section, which can make some really nice, interesting glitches. I often will just kind of randomize this, and it's taking a little while because we've got the number of glitches and the max duration set pretty high. So you can hear it just, I'm not sure if it's drawing from all the other generators or what's exactly going on with this one, but it's pretty cool. You can set the reverse sample probability. You can make it higher if you want more reverses. There's a noise section, dust, white, pink, Brownian. Normalization, let's normalize each sample separately. And let's change our noise overlap a little bit. And then we get a more kind of consistent waveform. Good one to randomize and play with. And, you know, then you have like these instant glitches, which is kind of cool on its own. You can also like slice this up and mine this for individual percussion sounds. A lot of versatility, a lot of options. So it's a very cool unit. Again, it was just released in an official release a few days ago, I think. Get it, check it out, make your own drums. No one else will sound like you. Keep being awesome, make lots of music. Peace.